Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mental Health Matters, and I'm your host, Dr. Matt Gloviak. First and foremost, thank you so much for all the positive feedback we received over the past two episodes. I truly appreciate you sharing your different concerns, sharing your interests, and also reaching out to actually be guests on the show. So, guess what? This episode, we actually have our first guest, Mr. Byron Sellers, who will be on here very shortly. So, today, one of the things that we want to talk about as we continue talking about mental health is how do we serve underprivileged youth? So, one of the things that we have to think about here in the United States, which is a relatively common problem, is that we have a lot of inequality. Even in our own little locale of Bolingbrook, Illinois, going all the way into Chicago, Illinois, what we see is a wide diversity of individuals from different socioeconomic classes. And as we know, with different socioeconomic class comes different types of opportunities. And unfortunately, equal opportunities are not afforded to every single individual from these different classes. So what exactly does that mean? Well, as we take a look around and we look at the different communities, we can see that, there's different tax rates, different tax groups. We see more affluent communities, less affluent communities. And then within every single community, we also see a wide range of different incomes. They can range from those that are well below the poverty line all the way to the very top for people who are economically doing very well. And one of the things that we notice when it comes to income across the United States is that 3% of people have 97% of the income. Yes, I got that correct. 3% of the people have 97% of the income. So where does that leave the rest of us? Well, most of us are earning a fairly stable living where we're able to pay the bills, we can have a mortgage, we can pay for our cars, we're able to put food on the table and have a little bit of fun. But how about those individuals who are struggling? For those individuals who are struggling, it may be very difficult to fathom what goes on in their lives unless you're an individual who's living with that. One might ask, well, how can somebody who's working 2, 3 jobs struggle to make ends meet? Well, the reality of the situation is if an individual is working a job that's minimum wage, it can be very difficult to get by. And especially if that minimum wage job doesn't come with any types of benefits, we know that medical fees can be very expensive. We recognize that saving for retirement can be nearly impossible. We recognize that simple things that we may take advantage of, such as dental, vision, and so on, that type of thing can be extremely difficult to attain. All these other little types of benefits. So when we take a look at the daily life, these individuals are struggling to be able to get by. And now what's the bottom line when we take a look at the children? Now for these children who grow up in these houses of lower socioeconomic status, it may be very difficult for them to be able to receive the appropriate attention that they need from family members, from the surrounding community, and so on. So for instance, if we have a household with a single mother who's working 2 or 3 jobs and there are 4 or 5 children in the house, it may be highly unlikely that they're going to see their mother very often and be unable to receive the appropriate type of support from the mother. And with that being said, they may have to cook some of their own meals. Perhaps the older sibling is going to be responsible for helping take care of some of the household chores and putting the children to bed. And where does tutoring come in? We know that a lot of the academics that we have to face, especially as we're going through grade school, middle school, high school, can become increasingly challenging. So what does it look like when the parent's unable to be there to be able to help the child get through the schoolwork? And one of the things that we see when we take a look at the actual school systems is that oftentimes when we have students who are struggling with a particular course or struggling with the entire grade level, we sit there and look at the student as if there's some type of deficit. Perhaps this child doesn't care, this child is delinquent, this child is never going to catch on, and we blame that student and we don't take a look at all the other circumstances that can be going on in that child's life. And then we take a look at the school system itself in terms of resources. One of the things that we have to consider when we take a look at the schools is that schools are going to have the same type of income that's allotted by the surrounding community. So if a school is in a more affluent community, they're going to have much more money for resources such as newer cutting edge technology. They're going to have better textbooks. They're going to have teachers who may be more educated and experienced who are going to be able to teach the classes better. They're going to be able to go on different field trips. They're going to have state-of-the-art facilities in terms of the library, in terms of the field house, in terms of the sports and other activities and such that they can provide. So where does that leave those who are going to be in these types of environments where, perhaps they're using old textbooks? And believe it or not, yes, it's true. There are schools where students are using textbooks that are 10, 20 years old. Some schools don't have after-school programs such as different sports, art, and music. Some schools have teachers who are continuing to struggle because they can't make their ends meet and have to go on strike, and they can't stay afterward to be able to support these students. In these types of circumstances, we have to consider what types of things we could do to be able to help them. And when we talk about mental wellness, one of the greatest things that we can afford somebody else is doing community service. So here today, we're going to talk about community service, being able to mentor underserved youth. And with me today, I have Mr. Byron Sellers. Mr. Byron Sellers is an individual who has been, over the past several years, doing different mentorship opportunities for the schools in the area of Chicago. And I'd like to bring him on now so we can talk to him further. Well, Byron, how you doing today?
Matt?
It's great seeing you here.
Thank you, thank you.
So, if you would, please tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yes, so what I do is I mentor youth about entrepreneurship.
Okay.
That's one thing that's really not taught in the schools, and for myself, not having those resources when I was younger, I want to help them provide that.
Okay, so you're teaching about entrepreneurship. And I get a kick out of it too. We talk about how many of those different things in the school system that aren't actually taught. We sit there and talk about, okay, we learn math, we learn writing, we learn, history and so on and so forth. But what about those daily skills that we need? We don't talk about what it's like to go on a job interview, what it's like to get a job, how to be able to figure out what our best career abilities are going to be, and so on. And here you are talking about entrepreneurship to the schools. That's amazing. And, one of the things, too, is I was just speaking a moment ago, when we talk about individuals in those underserved populations, I would think that entrepreneurship is something that seems way out of reach. Here we are taking a look at the household. We don't have very much money to get by. Thinking about owning my own company, just it seems like a pipe dream. I'm trying to focus on graduating middle school, finishing high school, let alone going to college now, owning my own business. Like, how do you do this?
Definitely. So, in 2019, we're basically living in the greatest age that you can live in.
Okay.
Now social media allows you to pretty much market to anyone in the world. So for myself, having not only online businesses, I give the kids the resources to be able to sell their products all over the country.
Okay.
So whether it's t-shirts, whether it's paintings, whether it's their music, I'm opening up to opportunities to be able to use the social media and the internet as resources to help them to make money.
Okay, being able to help them to make money. So we take a look at, we have over 8 billion people in the world, and the internet's become much more accessible than it's ever been before. We take a look at some of the rates. I remember back when we were kids here, we had the the 56K modem through the dial-up. It was very slow. It'd always kick you off. And I remember I was speaking to my parents the other day. They're like, "Do you know that we used to have to pay about $1 a minute while you were on the internet, and it was so expensive?"
Yes.
And now we see some of these unlimited plans as low as $20.
Yes.
But even still, $20 a month can be a lot of money for somebody to afford who's in a lower SES household, when we're trying to put food on the table and we're at a school that might be struggling to have the resources. So I'm curious, where do we even start? Like, how can you get them the resources they need to even be able to share what they have?
Definitely. For one, the biggest thing is they're in a huge incubator. They're at school. So they're around so many students, and you think about it, school is the popularity contest. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're the only person that comes around that has t-shirts, right, or you're the only person that comes around and you're making music, you can start with your own school. And then what that does, it becomes infectious, right?
Sure.
The other kids have friends at other schools. And now you're able to market not only at your school, but now they're able to market all over their Chicagoland and their neighborhood. So it's really giving them the exposure and giving them the tools to be able to say, hey, you know what? I can do this because other people or 15-year-olds on YouTube making thousands of dollars, I can do this as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, absolutely. Well, that's one of the great things about the city of Chicago and the surrounding suburbs, Bolingbrook, Illinois being included, is that we really are a cultural melting pot. And there's so much diversity, and it almost shocks me. It's a cultural shock when I go to some of the different cities throughout the United States, especially if I go to some of the smaller communities and I see more like-type people, whereas out here, we have so many different foods we can eat, so much different music we can listen to, people wearing different clothes, celebrating different things. And you truly can find a community to be able to be yourself out here in this area, and why not take advantage of that?
Yes, for sure. And I mean, the wonderful thing I love about it is when they get exposed to it, like you said earlier, when it's like, wait, I can own my own business.
Hmm.
The biggest thing I help them is collaboration,
Okay.
strength in numbers, right? And with that being instilled, is not me versus you. It's about how can we do this together as a team, collectively using my old coaching experience to help them to bond together to make something bigger than them. And when they start seeing the larger picture, when they
Hmm.
start seeing the impact, man, they love it and they start falling in love with that process.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the big problems that we have for anybody in general, especially with the population we're talking about here, is so often we have these big goals and, we look at them as dreams, but what is a dream? Well, a dream is a goal that doesn't have any plan. So mentorship and the type of thing that you're doing is helping them put a plan together, and being able to see the progress that they can make. Because when we sit there and take a look at, okay, I've got this shirt idea and I want to make $1 million, but right now, we're struggling to be able to get by. I don't even have a job. How am I going to get to $1 million? Where does that even come from? And we start to think immediately these big corporations have a lot of resources. We think of the more affluent communities where people have a lot of money. The children have trust funds that their parents, give them the money to be able to do this. So how about from an economic standpoint, like where do they start? How much money does it take to even do something like this?
Well, honestly, nowadays it truly just takes the internet. And what I mean by internet, they can do drop shipping,
Okay.
right? They can utilize affiliate marketing. They do not actually need the actual product, right, to start making money.
Okay.
They can be able to create digital products, digital books, digital things, whereas one time made, and then from there they're able to sell it. So one thing I always teach them is if you don't have it now, either you pull your resources together or you start smaller, so that way you're able to invest. Even with t-shirts, right? What I
Hmm.
love about it, they have companies now that they don't even need inventory. It's all drop shipping. They upload their design. Now it's on Shopify. Now it's on Printful, and on demand is printed, sent out.
Okay, so that's a really great way to get started. And one of the things that I'm thinking about too is, programs like Kickstart, for instance. I'm always getting sent in my email box like these different conceptual ideas, and maybe I'll see a T-shirt or I'll see some type of a building or something random that can be on there. And so what you're telling me here is that these things haven't even been created yet. They're waiting until they raise the money, and usually it's $100,000 or $1 million. And so until they already collect the money, then it hasn't been created yet.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. Yes. And I mean, honestly, what I truly love. A lot of the kids love music, right?
Okay.
And a lot of with the music part, a lot of them want to be rappers and things like that. And don't get me wrong, at this age, it's great to try a lot
Hmm.
of things out. So it's really just giving them the confidence to say, hey, don't just be the person in your basement making music trying to sell to your friends. Now let's talk about some different marketing techniques to get your music out there.
Okay, absolutely. So I think that's fantastic. So it sounds like, very minimal money put down. You don't have to spend a lot of money on an idea that might not work. You're able to get this started. Well, the other part too that I was thinking about in terms of the internet. Let's suppose that you don't have a computer in the home.
Right.
Where can these children go to be able to get that? Like to have access to a computer, to be able to have access to the internet, to be able to figure out who I want to be part of this group. Like,
Right.
where do we start?
No, definitely. Well, the cool thing, almost every kid has a smartphone. And nowadays they can get everything done just from the palm of their hands and a
Okay.
smartphone. So it's so many apps, it's so many things, and with help from others, is able to pull resources again with those apps, showing them how to do things. Like we have kids that do graphic designs just on their phones, and I mean make some of the most beautiful designs, and they're able to actually help and sell that in school as well.
Oh, that's fantastic. Okay, so again, relatively low cost, easily accessible, and able to put these things together.
Yes.
Now, taking it back to mental health and what we talk about here on the show, I want to take a moment to think about what does it do to one's mindset? Growing up in a community where you see, people don't have very much money, we're struggling to get by, and now all of a sudden, I went through a mentorship program with Mr. Sellers here, got a really great idea, for minimal money down, I was able to go into the school, the library, utilize a computer, perhaps if I can't afford a smartphone, I have that, I'm on there doing this, put together an idea on Kickstart, start seeing it grow, day after day, I'm checking the website and I see, okay, $1,000 on the first day, $1,500 the next. Now I hit $10,000 in a week or two, and then now I finally hit my goal in a month of $100,000. Like, what does that do to somebody?
Oh man, you're talking about the confidence confidence. That's the biggest thing, is their confidence, and they start become believers, because literally the first conversations when I sit down and talk with them about entrepreneurship,
Mm-hmm.
or you can become a business owner, it again is like, I can do that.
Mm-hmm.
And and like you said, when they start really to start doing the things and start building up that confidence, and then think as a teenager, your friends are seeing it like, wait, what are you guys doing, right? And that becomes more and more appealing. And so, like I said, when they start getting to those points, oh man, it really takes their confidence, and they start to look outside of what's in the community. They start thinking bigger. And that's the biggest thing. You want them to think bigger, because most of them think they are confined to just their communities. A lot of them, you'd be surprised, a lot of them haven't even been downtown, and downtown is literally 10 minutes away.
Well, absolutely, and I think that's one of the things too that we take for granted. We don't even consider, all the opportunities that are there downtown, but getting downtown can be more difficult than one thinks. 10 minutes away, but 10 minutes away, depending on the neighborhood you have to go through, what's the means of transportation if you're even able to do that? Growing up here, grew up in Bolingbrook, Illinois, and I had a van director. He used to always tell us, all of you are 25 miles away from one of the greatest cities in the world. You have to take advantage of it. But again, there could be different limitations in terms of getting there. But something really important that you stated is with that confidence. When people have confidence, they start to believe in themselves, something changes. We sit here and we talk about, when we take a look at ourselves and everything, self-efficacy. How much do we believe in ourselves? How much do we care about ourselves? And we start to act different depending on how we believe in ourselves. So if we sit there and tell ourselves that this is never going to happen, I'm a loser, there's no chance, you're not going to put in the effort to do it, because would you sit there and put in all the effort to start a business if you didn't believe in yourself?
Right.
But it's going to go nowhere. I mean, why am I going to go to school for 6.5 hours a day and then come and spend 8 hours a day afterward on this? There's just no point. I'd rather be playing with my friends, rather be doing video games, getting into trouble, all that other type of stuff. But now here with this type of opportunity, they can see that they can start from that bottom point, have confidence in themselves, and continue to push harder and harder and harder and see that I can make it. And what else happens with that as well is, as you boost the self-esteem, that oftentimes will minimize different mental health disorders and things like that.
Yes.
So someone who might have felt kind of hopeless and feeling depressed from where they're at, now sees, okay, I have this opportunity, so I feel a bit better. I want to wake up in the morning and I can do something positive. And not only do I see the day to day, but I can see the week to week, the month to month, the year to year. And now I can look 10 years out and see that, I can have a bright future. Maybe I can take care of my family after all.
Oh, definitely, definitely. And you'd be surprised that a lot of these kids don't think they're going to live past 21. They have older brothers, they have uncles and cousins, and they're in the streets and things. And so when you give them another possibility, because they see drug dealing, they see the illegal scamming and all those things, and they think that's how you make money, or they think that's life. When they start seeing those other things, those other possibilities, it's like, wow. And like you said, that confidence, they wake up different. They just got I tell them they got a pep in their step. Their swag turns totally different.
Well, a few episodes ago, our third one, actually, the very first episode, I was talking about, choice theory. So for instance, nobody can force you to do anything. We all make our own choices. However, some choices are easy and some choices are very hard. So I want to take a moment to freeze on that statement that you made about a lot of youth growing up don't think they're even going to make it to age 21. They're getting involved in gang activity, drug selling, and so on. And we sit there outside looking in, taking a look at these children and saying, they're bad, there's something wrong with them. They had terrible parents who don't care about them. They're delinquents, they belong in jail, and so on and so forth. However, the things that we don't see is that in a lot of these neighborhoods, there's not police security like we would see in other neighborhoods. Gangs are walking the street, and it's either join a gang and have their protection, or don't join a gang and you get beaten up by the other gangs, or you could likely be killed. The same thing with the drug dealing. I mean, they start hiring these kids to start running drugs at very young ages. Some of the clients I've worked with started doing this as young as 6, 7 years old, be able to go out there and having a cell to get the protection from the gang, and then the money they would have, again, protection from the gang, and they'd be able to bring it home and support the family, or sometimes, the parents wouldn't even know that's what was going on, but they would be able to support their siblings and things like that. So much more goes into it. And when it's one of those, kill or be killed deal or be killed type situations. I mean, your choice is very minimal in what you can do. And the thing we have to see as well, that even if these little children were to go and report these types of things to the police, there's no guarantee that any of that stuff's going to end, because the crime continues, the gangs continue, and it's so hard to be able to see past that point. Hey, what are your thoughts around that?
Man, I mean, honestly, man, it's tough because, they're you're losing so many of them, right? And a lot of times it has become, like you talk about gangs, instead of like a big organization, it's become block by block. So you're talking about kids are into it with the next block. And when you start looking at those things, these kids suffer from PTSD, right? Because their friends are getting killed. They have to come to school, right? They don't have time to really heal from something because something else is continually to happen. So when you start looking at those things, you understand that what they go through, life comes fast at them. Mm-hmm. Right? And those choices, they don't feel that those choices they feel like, I have to do this, but it is another way out. And there's more people, more men, more women that need to really be pouring into them, because a lot of times their parents drugs and just really struggling, so they take it out on the kids, or they're just pushing the kids off.
Well, and that's a thing that we notice as well. We have genetic predispositions and environmental type factors. And with these parents, oftentimes they grew up in abusive households themselves. They don't know any better. By the time they have children, they're addicted, and it continues to pass on along down the line. Now, I do want to take a moment to freeze on PTSD, so post-traumatic stress disorder. More recently in the media, we've been discussing a lot of PTSD with military veterans and such. And we know, especially those who've been in combat, have seen some very gruesome things that most of us couldn't even fathom or imagine. But PTSD is also something that can occur for somebody who's a younger child. It can happen for somebody through adolescence. And some of the warning signs, or symptoms rather, that we see with PTSD are going to be flashbacks, reliving these past experiences, having a lot of nightmares, numbing and detachment, intrusive thoughts, memories, and different types of recollections, hypervigilance, being easy to startle, and so on. We can have some aggression and things like that. And the thing that we notice in the physiology, these individuals who have PTSD in their childhood, it does stymie brain development. And with that, we take a look at adversive childhood experiences, and what that really does is that it shrinks the brain, so the brain doesn't develop as normally as it does for other people. And the other thing that we see here is they're constantly in this fight or flight type of position. And when you're in a survival type of mode, you don't have that higher level ability to be able to think about different things, such as starting your own business, let alone getting up in the morning and getting to school, getting your homework done, and looking forward to the next day. I mean, it's truly unfortunate. And the problem is, when we impact somebody on that physiological level in their youth, especially if we don't intervene by age 12 or so, it's going to continue onward. We're going to see mental health disorders that continue through adulthood, and it's very hard to change it past that point. So this is something significant, and thank you for bringing that up.
Oh, no problem, no problem. And I mean, the biggest thing, man, is I think with these kids is they know they're still kids.
They are.
They are still kids, and they definitely imagine, they definitely still have the dreams and things. But again, it just takes more people to continue to pour in them, but at the same time, be able to have patience with them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it does take patience, because we have to understand the only thing they know is trouble. The only expectation they have is that bad things are going to happen. And oftentimes they don't trust you, because the people who are there, who they're supposed to trust, their parents, the community, their teachers, the principal, their coaches, haven't been there for them. And here you are entering into a situation where there's no trust to begin with, and it's going to take some time to be able to open up to you, to see that there are positive things out there, there are positive people. So, I'm curious, in terms of your experience, so you've been doing some really great stuff as a mentor and really shooting high in terms of the dreams people can have, and I know you're doing great work. That's why you're here. I'm curious, so for people who are interested in getting involved with mentorship, what would you recommend? Like, where do we start?
I mean, it's honestly as simple as starting with Google, right?
Okay.
Googling mentor programs, seeing how you can volunteer, right? Actually, even going to the school. Now, here's the thing: like with CPS, they do have background checks, right? Which is definitely needed. You don't want anybody just mentoring.
Absolutely, I had to complete one myself
Yeah.
for the schools.
You definitely need that. But I mean, even sports. If you have children, if bringing their friends, meet their friends, see who your children are being around. Be a voice for them. allow them to not just be kids, but open the dialect up. But there's a lot of programs that offer that mentorship, the volunteer, and just being able to continue to be there. Unfortunately, you have some people that show up there and they just do it for the gram, and you don't. Those are the people that's just like, hey, come on, they need the consistency, because like you said, they don't trust you. They know if you're there just for one time, right? So if you're consistent with it, they're going to trust you. They're going to open up to you, and man, they trust me. They're going to love it.
And I think that's fantastic. Well, one of the things you said, like going on and doing a Google search, I remember when I was part of the National Honor Society in high school, I was part of Big Brothers Big Sisters, and they assigned me a fifth grader who I work with, and that's what we did. It was consistent every day, or it was like once a week, every week after school at about 3:30. We'd meet from 3:30 to 4:30 and go over whatever type of topics there, and you could see the growth week after week. So I think some of the programs that we have out there as well have you sign some type of commitment, whether it's 6 months, a year, 2 years, something like that, to make sure that you're going to be there regularly. Another point that you made up, I know we're talking about entrepreneurship because that's what you mentor in, but it sounds like a Google search, you can go in and whatever your specialty area is, you'd be able to mentor in that. So, students need help in, mathematics, need help in history, or they want help in interpersonal skills, or they want help in, learning how to find jobs and stuff like that. They should be able to find those opportunities, right?
Yes, for sure, definitely. And I mean, they're all out there. And one thing I want to add too with kids, they don't like being told what to do.
Yeah.
Tell them. So
I don't think anybody likes being told what to do, right?
So the biggest thing is you got to understand what value they have, right? Finding some of their strengths, almost like the SWOT analysis. You want to find out the strengths, you want to find out the weaknesses. What are the threats and opportunities, right? And once you do that, you can really help build from there and really help them to start to see, like, hey, you're great at this, right? But this is what you need to work on, and that's when they're able versus saying, do this. No, you don't do it this way. I'm an adult. Like you got to really come down to their level to be able. And once that's again that trust, then they start realizing like, okay, yeah, I think I can do this.
Okay. Well, I think that's fantastic. So it seems as though we have numerous opportunities and there are numerous benefits for the youth to receive these mentoring.
Yes.
How about this? Let's be selfish for a moment.
Okay.
So for the mentor, so for you as a mentor, what type of benefits do you get? How has this improved your life?
Man, seriously, just relationships, kind of being more in touch, understanding what a lot of times what you see on the news, right? Unfortunately, the media may play a more darker picture of it, but it's really understanding when you're in their shoes of what's really going on. But honestly, man, for me, the benefit is just giving. Just being able to give my time, being able, like, that sources me, being like having, 16-year-old, like, these are my little brothers.
Fuel for the soul.
Yes, watching them grow and it's not even the benefit of, like the impact that I'm having. It's just being another person for them to lean up on and knowing that I wish I had a mentor when I was that age.
I think that's fantastic. One of the things that they've done as well, so research-wise, did you know that people who are into philanthropy, people who give, volunteer, and so on, actually, on average, live longer than those who don't?
Oh, man, that's wonderful.
Yeah, so you might get to live a longer life helping people and seeing all those different benefits, and I think that that's absolutely fantastic. I know one of the things that I absolutely love about the helping professions is exactly just what you said right here, getting to take a look and see people who felt as though they had no opportunities, that they could never rise above, and now here they're able to do things that they never imagined possible, and just seeing that in and of itself is ever so gratifying. But not even for the individual, but the communities around that individual, because like you said, when one person gets inspired, can inspire the best friend, who inspires his best friend, who inspires her best friend, and so on and so forth, to where now we see more and more and more individuals who are inspired and they believe in themselves and they can get together and do this thing. And this is how, again, we rise above and communities can work through some things that we never otherwise thought possible.
So true.
So this is fantastic. So I'm wondering, do you have any final words here as we conclude this episode?
Yes. Man, anyone, if you have the resources, you definitely want to become a mentor. You want to find, if maybe just one, you can do 1 or 10, but you want to find a young person that you can kind of take under your wing and give them what you did not have when you were younger.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being on here. And for anybody who's interested in learning more about mentorship from Mr. Byron Sellers, please feel free to reach out to his email address or website that's shared here on the page. And as always, if you're interested in being a guest on the show, if you have any questions, you have anything else that you would like to say about it, any kind comments, or I'll even take not so kind ones as well because we need the feedback, reach out to me at dr.mgloviak@gmail.com. And also feel free to visit us on our Facebook page, Mental Health Matters. So with that, thank you very much, and I hope you have a wonderful day.